Archangel Michael says, I order you to open this right now, open it now, because whatever you have been avoiding has already waited long enough, and today marks the day that waiting finally ends. My child, stay here. Do not glance away and return to whatever distraction was pulling at you a moment ago. Something specific has been sitting untouched in the corners of your mind, and this message exists to drag it fully into the light, not harshly, but firmly, the way a parent finally insists a child face something they have circled around for far too long. Breathe. Settle your body. Whatever noise has occupied your thoughts lately, quiet it now, because what comes next deserves your complete attention rather than a half-interested glance. Consider honestly what specific issue has been lingering unresolved in your life. Perhaps a bond that needs a truthful exchange rather than continued pretense. Perhaps a choice that has stayed frozen, circling endlessly without ever landing anywhere solid. Perhaps a wound that keeps reopening no matter how firmly you tell yourself it is closed. Perhaps merely a persistent unease suggesting your current path no longer matches who you are turning into. Give this reflection real time rather than settling on whatever comes to mind first without further consideration. Sometimes more than one issue genuinely deserves this kind of direct attention, and identifying which one feels heaviest right now can help you focus your energy more effectively than attempting to address everything simultaneously. Whatever surfaced as you weighed these possibilities, keep it firmly in your awareness as you move through the rest of this reflection, since this is precisely the matter this command has been aimed toward. My child, understand why this message arrives with such firmness rather than gentle suggestion. Gentle suggestion has already been offered, repeatedly, through quiet nudges you noticed and pushed aside, through flashes of insight that surfaced only to dissolve once ordinary life reclaimed your focus. Softness alone has failed to break through, and so today this message speaks plainly, not from frustration, but from a devotion refusing to stay silent any longer. Ponder how frequently something resembling this exact moment of clarity has already appeared in your life, arriving and then quietly slipping away once the demands of an ordinary day swallowed your attention whole. This recurring cycle of noticing and then postponing deserves genuine scrutiny rather than continued, automatic dismissal. Try naming, as precisely as you genuinely can, how many times this exact matter has already resurfaced across recent weeks or months. Once. A handful of instances. So many instances that an honest count has become difficult to keep. Whatever the actual number, this candid accounting helps illustrate concretely why today deserves the firmness this message is offering, rather than continuing to treat urgency merely as an abstract idea detached from your own lived experience. Here is why urgency matters precisely now, rather than allowing this matter to wait for some more convenient stretch of time later. Time is not the endless reserve that prolonged delay quietly assumes it to be. Each day spent circling this particular matter is a day you cannot later retrieve, no matter how much genuine resolve you eventually summon to finally face it. This is not meant to spark panic. It is a plain reminder of something easily overlooked amid the comfortable fiction that boundless time remains available for whatever currently feels inconvenient to confront head-on. Picture how differently today might feel if you knew, with certainty, that it represented the last real opportunity you would ever have to address this specific matter. This is not offered as literal prophecy, but as a useful exercise in perspective, since the false sense of unlimited remaining time is often precisely what allows delay to continue indefinitely, seeming reasonable in any single moment while accumulating into something no longer reasonable when considered across its full span. Apprehension likely fuels whatever reluctance has kept this matter unattended until now, deserving honest examination rather than allowing it to operate quietly beneath the surface of continued avoidance. Worry about a specific consequence, dreading that direct engagement will produce something unwanted. Worry about the process itself, the discomfort genuine confrontation typically demands. Worry about what genuine engagement might force you to subsequently alter, recognizing that authentic response could ripple into other corners of your life that have quietly arranged themselves around your continued evasion. Reflect honestly on which of these worries, or what blend of them, feels closest to your own particular circumstance. Naming this worry precisely, rather than letting it linger as vague, shapeless resistance, makes it considerably easier to work with. Consider, too, that these worries often intensify precisely because a matter genuinely carries weight, rather than remaining flat and indifferent toward things of little real consequence. If your own particular worry feels genuinely intense, that intensity itself may confirm exactly how significant this matter actually is, rather than suggesting avoidance remains the wiser path. Ask yourself plainly how probable the specific dreaded outcome genuinely is, grounded in actual evidence rather than anxious imagination spinning worst-case scenarios without any real basis in your lived history. Ask yourself, too, whether you would truly be incapable of managing that dreaded outcome even if it did occur, given everything you have already weathered and overcome across your life so far. Most people, examining this honestly rather than simply accepting their anxious assumption unchallenged, discover far more inner strength than their apprehension typically credits them with. Consider making a brief, honest inventory of specific past difficulties you have already navigated successfully, situations that, in the moment, felt genuinely overwhelming, yet which you ultimately found your way through. This inventory, however brief, often provides concrete, personally relevant evidence directly contradicting whatever anxious narrative currently suggests you would be unable to handle whatever specific outcome you fear regarding this current matter. My child, here is what genuine engagement with this particular matter might actually resemble in practice, since this message does not call for reckless, hasty movement made without genuine thought. Genuine engagement calls for honest reflection followed by deliberate, concrete action, converting whatever clarity has surfaced through this reflection into real, practical steps within your actual circumstances. If your identified matter concerns a relationship, this could mean initiating one truthful exchange, communicating what you genuinely feel rather than continuing ambiguous interaction. If it concerns a choice, this could mean finally settling it within the coming day, rather than continuing to circle it endlessly. If it concerns healing or self-reflection, this could mean sitting honestly with whatever has been avoided, or arranging appropriate professional guidance if that feels fitting given the weight this matter carries. Whatever this particular engagement ultimately looks like for your own situation, understand that it need not be grand to represent genuine progress. Small, sincere first movements carry real weight, even while the fuller resolution of this matter continues to require additional time and effort beyond this initial step. Consider, too, what the very smallest possible version of this movement might actually look like, smaller even than whatever first came to mind. Sometimes the most immediately achievable action feels almost too modest to count as genuine engagement, yet these smaller starting points often prove considerably more sustainable than larger, more intimidating steps that end up postponed simply because of their perceived scale and difficulty. Here is why immediate movement matters specifically today, rather than continuing to regard this reflection as something that can wait for a friendlier moment later. Instances of genuine clarity rarely stay equally vivid and accessible forever. Ordinary daily life has a steady tendency to reclaim focus, gradually dulling even the sharpest, most meaningful insight. Consider what specific action lies within your reach over the next day, not the coming week or month, that would represent real movement toward whatever this reflection has surfaced. Think about how you might make that particular action feel genuinely achievable rather than intimidating, breaking it down further if necessary until it feels manageable within the actual constraints of your day tomorrow. Sometimes what initially feels like one large step is really several smaller steps combined, and identifying the smallest possible starting point can make the difference between genuine follow-through and continued delay disguised as waiting for better circumstances. My child, support throughout this process often proves genuinely valuable, since facing this matter in complete isolation typically proves harder than necessary. Consider who in your circle might offer honest encouragement as you begin engaging directly with whatever this message has helped you name. If professional guidance feels fitting for your specific matter, whether therapeutic support for deeper healing, career coaching for professional concerns, or another appropriate resource, regard this as a legitimate, valuable part of genuine engagement rather than something separate from or lesser than personal effort alone. Think about the specific qualities that would make someone genuinely helpful in this particular role, rather than simply defaulting to whoever comes to mind first. Ideally, this person offers genuine, non-judgmental presence without either minimizing the genuine difficulty involved or pushing you toward hasty, poorly considered action before you feel authentically ready. Skepticism likely surfaced at some point while reading this reflection, questioning whether this message's central claim genuinely applies to your particular situation, or whether it merely represents broad spiritual encouragement offered without real connection to your actual circumstances. Consider whether your skepticism reflects careful, genuine evaluation, or whether it reflects something else entirely, perhaps the very avoidance pattern this message has been describing, now dressed as doubt toward the message itself. Notice, too, whether this particular skepticism arrived quickly, almost automatically, at precisely the moment something genuinely significant began surfacing during this reflection. This kind of rapid, automatic dismissal often signals precisely the opposite of what it claims, suggesting genuine relevance rather than genuine irrelevance, since truly irrelevant content rarely provokes this kind of immediate, defensive reaction. Here is something further worth understanding about the tone carried throughout this reflection, since firmness sometimes gets mistaken for harshness or condemnation, when it actually signals something opposite. A parent who truly cares for a child does not always speak gently once gentleness has already proven insufficient to convey genuine urgency. Sometimes love states, plainly and firmly, "This matters, please pay attention," precisely because softer methods have already failed to prompt the necessary response. This message speaks this way because you genuinely deserve this level of directness and devotion, not despite that devotion, but precisely because of it. Consider what it would mean to actually receive this directness as care, rather than automatically interpreting firmness as criticism or harshness. Many people, particularly those who grew up in environments where directness was consistently tied to anger or disappointment, struggle to separate the two. If this describes your own particular experience, notice that this specific message intends something different, urgency born entirely from genuine investment in your well-being, rather than judgment directed toward you personally. My child, here is what genuinely shifts once you finally engage with this particular matter, converting urgency into concrete movement rather than continuing whatever pattern of delay has defined your relationship with it until now. Countless people describe considerable relief following genuine engagement, even when that engagement involves real, ongoing difficulty that does not vanish instantly simply because you finally began. This relief springs not from the disappearance of difficulty, but from the disappearance of the particular weariness that prolonged avoidance and delay typically produce. Mental and emotional energy once consumed by continued deliberation becoming available instead for the different, often more manageable labor of actually facing whatever genuine challenges this matter involves once directly addressed. Many people wait endlessly for a sensation of complete readiness before beginning something significant, a sensation that, for most genuinely worthwhile undertakings, never truly arrives in the finished, certain form that continued waiting seems to anticipate. Genuine readiness, more often, grows through the very act of beginning, rather than existing as a prerequisite that must already be fully achieved before beginning becomes possible. Consider whether you have been waiting for exactly this kind of complete readiness regarding whatever matter this reflection has surfaced, a readiness that may simply not appear in the shape you have been anticipating until after you have already begun engaging directly with the matter itself. If this pattern resonates with your own particular experience, this message is specifically asking you to release the requirement of complete readiness before beginning, trusting instead that sufficient readiness for the next immediate step is likely already present, even if complete readiness for the entire eventual process genuinely remains uncertain and undeveloped at this particular moment. My child, measuring your own timeline and readiness against other people's apparent confidence often produces needless additional pressure that does not genuinely reflect how most people actually experience meaningful commitment and change. Most genuine commitments, even the ones that eventually prove successful and worthwhile, arrive amid real uncertainty and real apprehension, rather than the complete confidence comparison to others might suggest should already exist beforehand. Consider releasing this comparison entirely, recognizing that your own particular path toward genuine engagement, however hesitant or uncertain it has felt, remains entirely valid regardless of how effortlessly others might appear to navigate similar decisions within their own particular lives. Think about a specific person whose apparent confidence has felt intimidating or discouraging as you have considered your own hesitation regarding this matter. Consider, honestly, whether you actually know the full, private story behind that apparent confidence, or whether you are simply comparing your own visible struggle against their carefully curated, external presentation, a comparison that rarely reflects genuine, complete reality on either side. This firmness, however commanding its language throughout this reflection has been, did not arrive to frighten you or spark anxious urgency detached from genuine, tender care. It arrived because this particular matter genuinely merits your attention, offering a real chance for direct engagement with whatever has been patiently waiting for your response. Set down whatever guilt or self-reproach might have gathered around your prior delay of this matter. Guilt does not hasten genuine engagement. It merely piles unnecessary additional weight atop whatever difficulty already surrounds facing this matter directly. Meet this moment instead with genuine self-kindness, recognizing that delay in the face of significant, meaningful matters is an extremely common human tendency, alongside genuine willingness to finally respond differently than you have responded to comparable prior chances. Consider what specific words of self-kindness might genuinely help you release this particular guilt, words you might actually say to yourself right now, silently or aloud, offering the same compassion you would naturally extend to someone else facing a similar pattern of delay regarding a matter that genuinely mattered to them. My child, genuine, timely action ultimately demands trusting your own capacity to navigate whatever follows once that action has actually been taken. Many people, when trapped in extended delay regarding significant matters, are truly wrestling less with uncertainty about what they want, and more with uncertainty about their own ability to handle the consequences and responsibilities genuine action inevitably introduces. Reflect honestly on whether this describes your own particular circumstance, whether the primary barrier preventing genuine action has been uncertainty about what you genuinely want, or uncertainty about your own capacity to handle whatever that action genuinely demands once undertaken. If self-trust specifically feels like the more significant obstacle, consider what evidence from your own past experience might genuinely support greater confidence in your own capability, drawing on specific instances where you successfully navigated significant challenges despite initial uncertainty about your ability to do so. Your present physical and emotional well-being genuinely shapes your capacity for timely engagement, since chronic fatigue, unaddressed stress, or significant ongoing emotional strain genuinely restricts available capacity for the courageous, sustained action this particular matter likely demands. If your own well-being has been significantly neglected lately, consider whether some attention toward rest, basic self-care, and emotional support might genuinely represent an important part of properly readying yourself for the more direct engagement this message has been urging throughout its content. Think about what genuine rest would actually look like for you specifically, distinct from the idealized version other people describe. Consider whether a small, immediate step toward that genuine rest might itself represent valuable preparation for the larger engagement this reflection has been encouraging, rather than treating rest as something separate from or opposed to genuine progress on this particular matter. Consider what specific structures you might establish to support consistent, ongoing action, rather than depending purely on the initial surge of motivation this reflection has hopefully sparked, motivation that, like most initial bursts of enthusiasm, will likely fade eventually regardless of how genuinely significant this particular matter remains. Perhaps a regular check-in with the support person already discussed, a simple, consistent daily practice, or an accountability structure that does not depend entirely on your own fluctuating internal motivation to sustain itself over time. Consider what specific structure feels most genuinely sustainable for your own particular life and temperament, rather than adopting something elaborate simply because it worked well for someone else. My child, here is my closing blessing for you as this message nears its end. You are not being ordered today out of severity. You are being summoned forward out of genuine, profound care, the kind refusing to allow you to remain trapped within a pattern that has quietly cost you more than you may have fully recognized. This blessing travels alongside this firm instruction, not opposed to it, but fully woven within it. Before this message reaches its genuine close, take one last moment for yourself, genuinely absorbing everything that has surfaced throughout this reflection rather than rushing immediately toward whatever comes next in your day. Name, specifically, what matter this message has actually been pointing toward within your own particular life. Name, specifically, the concrete action you intend to take within the next day, shifting this matter from the category of things perpetually postponed into the category of things actively, genuinely being addressed. This need not feel grand or overwhelming in order to matter significantly. It simply needs to feel genuine, real engagement rather than another moment of fleeting reflection quickly forgotten once this message ends and your attention naturally drifts back toward whatever else fills your ordinary day. Take a moment here before continuing. Place a hand gently over your chest if that feels comfortable. Breathe slowly. Let whatever you have just named settle fully, without rushing toward whatever thought or task waits for your attention once this reflection ends. Trust that this particular message reached you today for a genuine reason, connected specifically to something already present and waiting within your own awareness, rather than arriving randomly or without relevance to your actual life circumstances. Something within you recognized enough significance to continue reading this far, past the point where you might have closed this message earlier had it genuinely carried no connection to anything meaningful currently present within your own life. Consider, too, what it might mean to continue checking in with yourself throughout the coming days regarding whatever action you have begun today, recognizing that genuine follow-through often requires sustained engagement beyond this single initial moment of reflection and commitment. Perhaps setting aside a few minutes each day, or each week, to honestly evaluate whether you are continuing to move forward with whatever process this reflection has helped you begin. How you handle the inevitable moments of doubt or difficulty likely to arise as you continue this process beyond today deserves genuine reflection as well, moments when the clarity you feel right now begins to feel more distant or uncertain amid the ordinary demands and complications of daily life. These moments of doubt do not indicate that your original clarity was somehow mistaken. They simply reflect the natural fluctuation that accompanies any genuine process of significant engagement and change. Consider, too, that these moments of doubt often arrive precisely when genuine progress is closest to becoming visible, a kind of final resistance before real, lasting change actually takes hold. Recognizing this pattern in advance can help you continue moving forward through these particular moments, rather than mistaking them for evidence that your original commitment was somehow misguided. When these moments of doubt eventually arise, consider returning to this specific reflection, rereading whatever sections felt most significant during this initial encounter, allowing the content to reinforce your original commitment even as its initial emotional intensity has naturally softened somewhat with the passage of time. Consider, too, reaching out to whatever support person you have identified, sharing the specific doubt currently being experienced rather than allowing it to operate silently, potentially derailing your continued engagement. What specific obstacles are most likely to arise as you continue translating today's recognition into sustained action over the coming weeks deserves consideration as well. Practical complications that make continued follow-through more difficult than it seemed during this initial moment of clarity. Old patterns of avoidance attempting to reassert themselves, particularly once the immediate emotional impact of this message begins to fade. Whatever specific obstacle feels most likely for your own particular situation, briefly considering in advance how you might respond to it can help you navigate it more effectively when it actually arises. Think through, specifically, what you might say to yourself in the moment one of these obstacles actually presents itself, preparing a brief, honest response in advance rather than being caught entirely unprepared when old patterns or practical complications inevitably arise. Most significant matters worth genuinely addressing rarely resolve completely within a single conversation or action. Progress more often looks like continued, honest engagement over time, gradual movement toward genuine resolution, even if that resolution takes considerably longer to fully develop than you might initially hope given the intensity of clarity present in this particular moment. Consider what genuine success will actually look like as you continue moving forward from today, recognizing that success rarely means instant, complete resolution achieved within a single conversation or action. Success more often looks like consistent, honest engagement over time, gradual movement in the direction of genuine resolution, even if that resolution takes considerably longer to fully develop than the intensity of clarity present in this particular moment might currently suggest. Consider what specific record you might keep as you continue this process beyond today, some form of documentation that allows you to track genuine progress over time rather than relying purely on memory to preserve the clarity and commitment you feel right now. This does not need to be elaborate. A simple note, written somewhere you will actually encounter again, briefly describing what this matter has been about and the action you intend to take, can serve as valuable evidence later. This record does not need to be formal or particularly detailed. Even brief, occasional entries, capturing whatever shifts or developments occur, can offer valuable perspective later, allowing you to look back and genuinely recognize how far this particular process has actually carried you, evidence that can be difficult to fully appreciate through memory alone. My child, consider, finally, what it would mean to trust that this particular firmness, whatever specific form it has taken in reaching you today, arrives out of genuine care rather than any arbitrary or coercive intention. This message is not trying to frighten you into hasty, poorly considered action. It is simply offering honest, direct encouragement to interrupt a pattern of postponement that has likely extended considerably longer than genuine necessity would actually require, inviting you toward the genuine freedom and fulfillment that comes from finally engaging with what has been waiting patiently for your attention. There is one more layer worth adding before this message truly comes to its close, something practical tying everything shared today into sustained, meaningful engagement over the coming weeks ahead, ensuring this genuine directive actually produces the lasting response it deserves rather than becoming simply one more instance of temporary motivation quickly forgotten. Consider what specific daily practice might help you maintain connection to whatever clarity has surfaced through this particular reflection, something brief enough to sustain consistently rather than elaborate enough to likely be abandoned once initial motivation naturally diminishes over time. Perhaps a few minutes each morning, briefly recommitting to whatever action you have identified as your genuine response to this command. Reflect on what specific evidence of genuine progress you might reasonably look for over the coming weeks, evidence that would help confirm authentic movement is actually occurring, even when that movement unfolds gradually rather than through one single, dramatic moment of complete resolution. Perhaps a growing sense of lightness or relief connected to whatever matter you have begun addressing. Perhaps concrete developments in whatever specific action you identified as your initial step forward. Consider, too, what specific role reflection and reassessment might play as this process continues unfolding beyond today. Genuine engagement with significant matters rarely proceeds in a perfectly smooth, predictable line from initial recognition through complete resolution. It typically involves periods of clear progress alongside periods where the path forward becomes temporarily less obvious, requiring renewed reflection and, sometimes, genuine reconsideration of the specific approach being taken. Give yourself genuine permission for this kind of ongoing reassessment, distinguishing it clearly from the pattern of postponement and avoidance this message has been addressing throughout its content. Reassessment, engaged in honestly while maintaining consistent underlying commitment, represents healthy, adaptive engagement with a genuinely complex matter. My child, explore what your particular relationship with this matter might look like 1 year from today, looking forward with genuine intention rather than simply hoping passively that circumstances will somehow resolve themselves without your continued, active participation. Picture, as specifically as you genuinely can, having engaged consistently and honestly with whatever this direct message has helped you identify, noticing what that engagement has likely produced by that point. Consider what specific people in your life, beyond simply the one supportive individual already discussed earlier in this reflection, might benefit from knowing about your genuine commitment to this particular matter. This does not require sharing every detail with everyone in your life. It simply invites consideration of whether broader, appropriate transparency about your genuine commitment might serve your continued engagement more effectively than continuing to hold this process entirely privately. Think about the specific balance between appropriate privacy and helpful transparency that feels right for your own particular situation, recognizing that neither complete secrecy nor complete openness necessarily serves every circumstance equally well. Some matters genuinely benefit from selective, careful sharing, while others may require broader transparency in order for genuine support and accountability to actually function effectively. Reflect, too, on what specific fears or hesitations from your own particular history have most consistently prevented similar significant engagement in the past. Whatever specific pattern has most consistently interfered with your previous attempts, name it clearly now, and consider what specific strategy might help you navigate around this particular pattern more effectively this time, informed by honest reflection on your own particular history rather than generic advice that fails to account for your own specific tendencies and challenges. Consider, finally, what genuine celebration might look like once you have taken that first concrete step. This message has been encouraging throughout its content, recognizing that acknowledging genuine progress, however small, tends to reinforce continued engagement far more effectively than moving immediately toward the next challenge without ever genuinely registering what has already been accomplished. This celebration does not need to be elaborate. It might simply mean pausing, briefly, to genuinely acknowledge to yourself that you finally responded, choosing engagement over continued avoidance. This message reached you today for a reason. Trust that. Carry it with you. And when you are ready, not before, not because anyone told you to, but when you are genuinely ready, take your next step. Deep down, you already know what that step is. Thank you for receiving this message today, for taking this direct instruction seriously rather than allowing it to pass by unanswered like similar previous moments may have passed by before. Be gentle with yourself as you continue engaging with whatever has been waiting for your attention, one honest, deliberate step at a time. My blessings, child. Go now, and do not delay any longer than you already have.